Welcome to Call Before Showing, a podcast where we help real estate pros navigate the emotional ups and downs of the real estate business
and hear the stories of real people who buckle in and ride the roller coaster with us.
Are you ready? Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome to the Call Before Showing podcast. This is Alison McPherson, and I am here today with my lovely co-host, Alex Eldridge. Hey girl.
Hey girl.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Today, we are going to talk about our car habits because as real estate agents, we are in the car a lot and probably more than most other people in the world, right?
Oh, for sure. Our cars are like our second homes. My car is like a very intimate place. If you went through my car, you would learn so much about me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I would be embarrassed if somebody went through my car.
Oh, for sure.
So today we're going to open up our car doors and let all you listeners in.
We're going to take you for a ride.
And that is now the title of the episode. First of all, since we're in our cars so often, we'll start with the easy stuff to talk about. So we'll talk about what we listen to in the car when we're going from one place to another.
I listen to either my Apple Music or podcasts. My music habits are also very weird. I am just the kind of person, and I guess you'll also learn this with my podcast habits. I get very obsessed with one thing, and then I play it to death until I no longer like it.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Like,
good.
I have a podcast that I've loved for years. Like, I listened to the entire podcast, but then now I think I've like overdosed on it. And so I don't want to listen to it anymore. And it's really sad because like I kind of miss that podcast host. I'm like, oh, I feel like she's my friend.
Oh, of course. They are our friends. What do you mean?
Yeah. And so I'm like, oh gosh, I miss her. But also at the same time, I just don't want to listen to it. So I do the same thing, but I only listen to podcasts.
Oh, you don't listen to music?
Well, like sometimes I'll listen to the Hamilton soundtrack because it pumps me up. So don't.
That is so cute. Oh, I love you.
I rap along with it. So if you're ever in Hampton Roads and you see a white girl with glasses just rapping the shit out of Hamilton.
In her Volkswagen.
Yeah, that's me. So I listen to Hamilton and then I listen to Pandora every now and again. But for the most part, I'm like heavy podcast listener.
What's your go-to Pandora station?
This is embarrassing. So I have two. One of them is 90s pop, which that one isn't embarrassing. I'm very proud of that.
Hell yes.
The other one is instrumentals for studying. So it's like the cello and the violin and that sort of thing, but it's like new music, right? So there will be like a Taylor Swift song, but it's like only instrumentals. So it's very calming.
Wow.
Don't judge me.
I'm not judging you.
Listen to it for yourself and you will be like, oh, I get it because it's so, watch, it's probably going to start because I'm looking at it.
Yeah. You can play like a few seconds of it. Let's hear. It sounds like the beginning of like an infomercial. Are you insecure about your gray hair?
Well, anyway, that was, you know that song, Love Me Like You Do, la la, love me like you do. It's that song.
I would never have known that.
If we kept listening to it, you would.
Okay.
So it's like very relaxing and calming. And so like that is kind of my like, if I need to calm the F down, that's what I listen to.
That's actually really nice. I wish that I was someone that could listen to just instrumentals, but I can't. I would just get so bored. And I need to be, this is probably not great, but I need to constantly be entertained. So I need to be like singing along or dancing or paying attention to some lyrics or, you know, like listening to a podcast. Or actually another thing I did for a minute besides those was Audible.
Oh, yeah.
I did that for a minute. I liked that. But then I started listening to this one book and I just haven't been able to get through it because it's so long. And so I'm just like, oh, and I can't bring myself to buy another one until I finished this one, you know, because that just feels wasteful.
Yeah.
But I think that that's also a really good one. Have someone read you books while you're driving, because then you just get smarter.
And that's how I feel about podcasts.
Not the ones I listen to.
Well, some of them I get smarter. While we're talking about podcasts, should we break it up into like categories? Like, should we say like fun ones, business ones?
I only listen to fun ones.
Okay, so let's start with that.
Okay.
But I'm going to break mine up into like categories because I listen to way too many.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to pull up my podcast. And number 1 is Call Before Showing. It's a podcast for real estate agents by real estate agents. And you should listen to it too. The other thing I do, there are some podcasts that I listen to like consistently in every episode. But then, you know how I said that I get really obsessive with music and I just listen to things over and over and over again? I am that way with certain people too, like celebrities. So I'll give you a little example. And I was watching, have you seen the show The Americans?
Yes.
Okay, so West and I watched The Americans. We binge watched it at the beginning of this year and loved it. Like, could not believe that I had not found this show before. And as soon as it was over, I immediately became like obsessed with Carrie Russell and Matthew Rhys. So I became obsessed with them. So I started watching interviews with them and I started reading about them. And then I found out that they were actually a couple in real life. And honestly, this is the Enneagram number 4 coming out. I legitimately cried. All of my dreams came true. And I don't know why I'm even invested in these other people's lives. You know, I grew up on novelas, okay? I like the drama, I like the love, I like it all, whatever, so sue me. Anyway, so I just searched their names on my podcast app, and anytime they've ever been interviewed came up. So I just listened to all of these different podcast channels interviewing them, and I do that. Like, I also became really obsessed with Jamila Jamil recently. Do you know who that is?
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about.
She's an activist. She's like amazing and just stands up for a lot of people that are not very well represented.
She did like some hilarious commentary on like Instagram influencers and like the skinny, the fit tea or whatever those things are. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember she like kind of went viral for that and it was awesome. And also like, I love it when, you know, people call out their other people for doing stupid shit on Instagram.
Oh, absolutely. She's really interesting to listen to, and she's been interviewed on so many podcasts, so I just went one after the other and listened to all of her interviews until I basically felt like I knew her story backwards and forwards. So like that's the kind of stuff that I listen to, like garbage, but like fun garbage. It's not like bad for my mental health. It's just
No. If you just listen to smart podcasts all the time, you have to get burnt out on that stuff at some point, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, I am a firm believer in listening to, like, some things that are just, like, lighthearted and funny.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing. Like, I, like, obsess over certain people for a certain amount of time.
Okay, good.
So, do you want one of my embarrassing podcasts?
Yeah.
I listen to Off the Vine with Caitlin Bristow.
Who's that?
She is a former bachelorette.
Okay.
And she does, like, Bachelor and Bachelorette recaps. She actually is the inspiration and AKA we stole it from her podcast, the Can You Not and the Confessions. But on her podcast, they're like always about like sex or poop or whatever. It's not like real estate confessions. So they're always really funny and inappropriate. But she does a lot of stuff like with the Bachelor franchise.
I'm so glad you're saying this because one of the podcasts that I listen to a lot is incredibly inappropriate, and I felt like I didn't even want to name it, but now that you've said that, I could totally tell you what my other one is.
I mean, that's it. It's a good podcast.
Okay.
It's funny. If you like The Bachelor and Bachelorette, it's like a good, yeah. But if you don't care about that, you're not going to like the podcast.
So I listened to one called Lady Lovin'. It's like 3 women in their late 20s and early 30s. They did it for 3 years and now it's on hiatus. It's basically an episode of Sex and the City in podcast form. And it's amazing. Fun. They're like 3 really successful women and they're just talking about like dating and relationships and family and all of this stuff. And they have some cool interviews with other successful people, but they mostly question and answer.
Like people submit questions. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So they mostly answer those and they're just really great. It's one of them is a comedian, so it's also really funny. And yeah. So, like, you know, they definitely talk about sex and stuff, and I listen to it while I'm driving, and sometimes I'll be, like, on my way to a showing, and it'll be, you know, playing, and then I'll get to my showing, and iPhones, when you put the lock screen on after you've been listening to something, it still, like, shows it on the front to where you could just press the play button. Mm-hmm. And I have almost accidentally pressed the play button, and it would literally be, like, them talking about, like, lube and orgasms. And that would be the worst thing ever.
You know that your husband's going to yell at us when he's editing because we're only talking to women right now.
Yeah.
He's like, you need to get men on the show. Okay, now he's going to be mad at me.
Let's just give West a little shout out. Have we talked about what West does?
Like everything? No, I'm just kidding.
West is our boss.
Yeah, West is like, you need to get X person on there. And we're like, okay.
Yeah, so West is my man that I get to live with and have babies with. And I do the bulk of the editing for our podcast, but he is a much better editor. And so he comes back over when I'm done and he makes everything sound nice and adds in the music. And whenever he's down in our office editing, he'll text me and be like, you need to do more of this, or like, you need to have a man on the show. He's always saying we need to have a man on the show. So we get it. Next week we're going to be interviewing a man and it's going to be so amazing.
Hey Wes, we're talking about vaginas. Speaking of vaginas, another one of the podcasts that I listen to, which is like an embarrassing one, but it's really funny. And whenever I listen to it on the way to showings, my clients are like, what the hell are you listening to? Because you're just like cracking up. Because I'm like in my car and I'm like laughing. Like my car is probably shaking because I'm laughing so hard.
Yeah.
It's called the Mortified Podcast, and they get in front of an audience and they read from like a journal or letters or whatever from their childhood or from their past.
Oh my gosh, I love that idea.
And so a lot of them are from like middle school or high school. So like if you looked back and like found a journal or diary or whatever from when you were a kid, you could read it. And it's hilarious. It's so funny. Part of it is a lot about sex because it's like 13-year-olds being like, oh my God, I love him. We're going to have sex.
There is a podcast that I listened to for a little while called Best of Friends Podcast. And it's literally a podcast where they go over every single episode of Friends.
Really?
Not that it's not like great content. Like it's definitely funny and enjoyable. But like if you just want something to listen to that's like, I don't know, like the way that you watch Friends, I feel like Friends has become this thing that we put on if we're going to like fold laundry or clean the house or, you know, like it's just this thing that lives in our like background space. Mm-hmm. So in the same sense, it's a really good podcast.
That's a good one. Everyone's going to love this episode.
As far as music, I always have Adele on because you can just sit in traffic and just really belt Adele and like no one cares.
Yeah. True.
I have like a lot of random stuff. Definitely have to have Shakira in there for car dancing because car dancing is very important. And also I like to play Shakira when my son's in the car because I want him to learn Spanish. And I want him to know where he comes from. So it's very important when we drive to daycare in the morning, Shakira's going full blast. Anyway, besides that, I just like anytime a new like album comes out, I download it and then I listen to it every single day for a month. And then from then on, every time I hear it, I want to throw up a little.
I know. I was going to say like you have an addictive personality.
But like addicted to the point where I do it so much that it makes me sick. So then I stop. Like a really healthy addict. Oh, what are your serious Alison podcasts?
I have two kind of like fun ones that I'll talk about first. I have Reply All, which is like a technology podcast, and it's kind of like about technology mysteries in like our day-to-day lives. So they try to technology problem solve for people, and so it's just like entertaining and interesting to listen to. 99% Invisible is about hidden design in everyday life. That one's an interesting one. And then my business ones are Online Marketing Made Easy with Amy Porterfield. She talks about like Facebook ads and membership sites and things like that.
You turned me on to that one, and I'm very grateful because she's really smart.
Yeah, she's super smart. And then I found this guy from her podcast, James Wedmore. He has the Mind Your Business podcast. And it's basically about like business mindsets and things like that to run a successful business. But it's also like online businesses. So, I listen to both of those kind of with a grain of salt because, I'm not building a membership site. 2 more business podcasts. Don't Keep Your Day Job with Kathy Heller. She's kind of like a feel-good like musician.
Okay.
She's somebody that she was a musician and everybody told her like you can't make it in normal day-to-day life as like a musician. But then she started doing like all the jingles and stuff for commercials. Mm-hmm. And then now she like makes a living doing that. And so basically she is kind of like think outside the box.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And she's like uplifting and cool. I don't know. And then Building a Story Brand with Donald Miller, which is like a marketing podcast basically talking about how to like clarify your marketing message so that people easily want to work with you.
I'm going to need to start listening to like all of those right away because it sounds like you are constantly being inspired by really strong people.
Yeah. So then those ones I just kind of listen to here and there, like when I'm looking for business inspiration. Mm-hmm. And then lately I've just been listening to Off the Vine with Caitlin Bristow and Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard.
Oh, I've never listened to that. Is it good?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, because I know he like won some award for it. It was like best podcast of the year or something like that.
Sometimes they're like an hour or 2 hours long, but they're good.
Let's talk about eating in our cars. Do you do it?
Yes.
What's your go-to car food?
Oh, God. I really enjoy the Dairy Queen $5 lunch.
I don't think I've ever been to Dairy Queen.
Okay, so it's only at like Dairy Queen, the grill and chill ones that actually have food. So the one that I get is a 3-piece chicken strip with French fries, and it comes with a drink, and then it comes with a sundae.
Like aside from the sundae, it sounds very like car friendly because those are things that you can just grab. You don't need a fork.
Right. And then the sundae, you can upgrade to make a blizzard. And it's like $1 more.
Is a blizzard like a McFlurry?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm down with a McFlurry. I haven't had one in ages. I can't have dairy anymore. But, what I would do for an Oreo McFlurry.
Yeah. So that is my go-to food. What is yours? You're going to be like, it's a salad from Panera.
No. Well, the thing is that I've tried eating salads while driving. And it's just not safe. It's not safe for drivers around you, and it's not safe for your clothes. And salads are always covered in some kind of like oily dressing, which you don't need to be getting all over your clothes. So I've learned that the hard way. I used to, when I was with you, working down with you, I would get like a chicken wrap from the cafe. Mm-hmm. And that's good because that's a handheld. But you know what my go-to has been lately? Because right next to my office is a Balducci's. And a Balducci's is like a gourmet grocery store. And so I get sushi. Just eat it with my hands. Is that gross? Probably. But that's what I do. Because honestly, it's like mess-free. I'll do that in like a kombucha.
That sounds yummy.
That's what I was eating today when I thought, like, while driving, because I finished my meeting at 1:30 and I had to be here by 2, and I ran across the street and grabbed it, and I was, like, shoveling sushi, and I was like, we should talk about this. Yeah, what's the weirdest thing you've eaten in the car?
The weirdest thing? I don't know.
Why is it that when like realtors have functions, because there's always food, right? Someone's always sponsoring it and providing food. Why is it always junk food?
Well, I don't know.
It's hard for people that have like food allergies though.
Yeah.
Today I went to a training and what did they have? Pizza and chocolate chip cookies. I can't have either of those things. So I sat through the whole thing and I was like, well, great. You said there was going to be lunch provided. There was another training I went to a couple months ago that was amazing. And they asked for feedback, and my feedback was like, better snacks next time, please. Because all they had was bags of chips and cookies. Honestly, we're adults.
True.
We're like full-grown adults. Why are you giving us chips and cookies for snacks? Give us some brain food. We know better by now. We're not kids. Even kids, like for a snack, you give them fruits and vegetables. anyone that is listening is a broker or supervises or anything like that, tell your people that are bringing food to bring things that are a little fresher and better. And honestly, it's probably because it's just cheaper, right?
Probably.
To order a couple pizzas and like a box of chocolate chip cookies. But like, let's be better, guys.
Or just tell us to bring our freaking lunch like adults, and we can do that.
I want the free lunch. Just make it healthy.
Let's make it clear. I want the free lunch.
No, don't take my lunch away, okay?
Is your car like a wasteland of like water bottles and trash and stuff? Like, do you collect trash / MLS sheets / or do you like habitually clean your car?
MLS sheets are the wallpaper to my car.
Yeah, me too.
As far as bottles and stuff, I tend to empty those out because I always have a passenger in my car, whether it's my husband or my sister or whoever. So I try to empty those pretty often. I recently got into kombucha a few months ago. And the first time I got it, I didn't realize it was a carbonated beverage. And I saw that there were like little bits at the bottom. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I have to shake this up.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm at a stoplight, just shaking as hard as I can because we got to mix up those bits. And then I went to open it.
It exploded everywhere.
And literally there are still kombucha streaks all over the inside of my car. It's embarrassing.
Okay, so speaking of a car wash, do you go through the car wash or do you wash your own car?
There are not enough car wash at gas stations here. I rarely ever find them, or I'm not looking for them. There's definitely not any at the gas stations near my house. I am definitely the kind of girl that will pay for a car wash. I just can't find the car wash.
Yeah.
That, along with the fact that my kid fucks with some snacks back there. Yesterday, West gave him this like little cereal bar to have on his way to daycare. And by the time we got to daycare, there was cereal bar in his hairline, on his eyelid, like in his pocket, in his little like front pocket in his t-shirt. My car is horrendous and I'm embarrassed by it.
Well, in our area, there's a few car detailers that come to the offices. And so a bunch of people have teamed up to be like, hey, come to our office this day. And everybody will get their car detailed. I've never taken advantage of it because I'm too cheap. And I know, but I need to because it's like, oh gosh, it's embarrassing. And like with the dog.
How much is it?
I don't know. I think it's like $60.
That is expensive. We used to have someone come to my office in LA when I was working there, and it was not that much. It was honestly like $35 or $40.
Oh, maybe it is that. I need to actually ask, but I'm like too cheap.
It's like, how many Dairy Queen $5 meals is that?
Think of how much food is in the $5 lunch.
Have you ever driven a client around?
Yes.
Was that good?
Have you? Yeah.
One time I pulled a muscle in my neck. I was sitting in bed watching Gilmore Girls, as one does, and I had to sneeze. And I sneezed really hard, and I pulled a muscle in my neck. And I had to go to the doctor. I legitimately did pull a muscle from sneezing. And so I couldn't turn my head.
How does this have to do anything with cars? But you couldn't turn your head.
I couldn't turn my head.
So then...
And so my client had to drive me around while I showed her property.
Well, so let's talk about that because I actually like that scenario.
When they drive you around?
Yes.
Honestly, that is the best case scenario, but it rarely happens.
Yeah. So I had one client that she worked nights. So then we would start our like search every morning. Like we would look in the morning and we would start usually at like 7:30 in the morning, as long as like, you know, people would allow us to do showings at that time. We switched off each time. So like we would just meet somewhere and then we would drive together. Because she was a single girl, there was no point in us driving separately. You know, with people with kids and stuff like that, I'm always like, please drive yourself because I don't have car seats.
But you would drive her.
Yeah, so I drove her sometimes and then she drove me sometimes. And the times that she drove me was so nice because then we could talk about stuff and she would just tell me her feelings on stuff, right? And then she would just ask questions and I could look at my phone or research or text the agent or whatever. It was super fast and convenient, and it was always easier when she drove me around. But it's also one of those things like you don't ever want to be like, can you drive me?
Yeah.
You almost get a better feeling of the things that they like, because then they can download with you between each house.
Because that's what you're doing when you're driving from one to the next.
Right. You can process a little bit better.
How do you feel about having someone follow you? Do you tell them to follow you, or do you tell them to use their GPS?
It depends on the client. Most of the time they're putting it in their GPS. And if it's not a last minute showing trip and we're looking at a bunch, I give them the list and the order that we're going to go in so that they just have it there.
Do you ever get lost and feel really stupid?
Yes. I mean, I use my GPS, but sometimes the GPS takes too long to start.
Or it gives you the wrong information.
Right. Or your satellite is off for whatever reason, and like it thinks you're in Peru or something,
Yeah.
And during my buyer counseling sessions, I'll tell my clients like, hey, just FYI, if my GPS stops working, like most of the time I know kind of where I'm going, but we may end up backtracking, or if I just stop on the side of the road and pausing and looking down at my phone, it's because my GPS went out or I don't know where I'm going. And if you know where you're going, go around me and then I'll follow you.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone expects you to know where everything is.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, we're all so reliant on our navigation systems at this point.
Right.
This last weekend, I was showing property to a wonderful man, and he had a white Toyota Camry. And he pulled out before me, but he went a different way from what GPS was showing me. And so I was like, that's odd. I'm going to stay on my path because I think that I don't know what he's doing. And before I knew it, there was a white Toyota Camry, looked like the same year, that was behind me. And I was like, okay, great. He found his way back. He's following me. And he was driving so slow. And he didn't strike me as the kind of guy that would drive slow. So I made sure to drive slow because I felt like he was following me. And honestly, we're going like 30 miles per hour on like a 45 or something like that, like really slow. Like at one point I lost him. I pulled over to the side and like waited for him to catch up with me.
And it wasn't him.
I finally get there and he's already parked. He's already like sitting on the front stoop of the house, looking at his phone. I was like, what happened? And yeah, it was some random person that was like, why is this woman insisting on driving right in front of me? I know you guys have all heard my story. And if you haven't, you need to go and listen to our rookie episode.
Yeah, it's in the rookie episode.
I almost crashed into a client. If you haven't heard it, you better go listen to it. It's a good one. It's very embarrassing. I did that for you. Well, this has been lovely. We have once again done an off-the-cuff episode. I like these, though.
Yeah, these are fun.
Because it's really just us catching up. So we want to shout out one of our beautiful listeners, Morgan McCullough. McCullough? Oh my gosh, I'm ruining this.
I think it's McCullough. I hope that's right.
Well, congratulations, Morgan. She just had her first closing, and we are so happy for you.
Yay, Morgan!
Alison is clapping. She's doing a golf clap for you.
I know. I hope this doesn't sound horrible on the mic.
Probably will, but we did it for you. Congratulations. We're so happy for you, and we're so glad that you are part of the Call Before Showing family.
I'm so proud.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We love and appreciate every single one of you. Please follow us on Instagram. It's our favorite place to be. And we are always here for you to slide into our DMs.
Hell yeah.
Also, you can email us at callbeforeshowing@gmail.com. And we want you to go out and have a beautiful, beautiful day.
And clean your cars, bitches.
Go to the gas station, even if they don't have a car wash, pull out that vacuum thing. Get to work. Good thing it rains a lot in Virginia, but if it doesn't where you're at, go get a car wash. Don't be dirty. Don't be like us.
And don't shake your kombucha.
And last but not least, do not shake your kombucha.
Ta-ta for now.
All right, bye guys.